time has come for one last 7-round mock draft for the Denver Broncos. I'm going to do my best to think, what would Sean Payton do? Because ultimately, that is what matters the most right now. So with that in mind, let's jump into my mock draft, starting with a trade, because I do not project Denver to make the 12th overall pick in this draft. I could see the Rams being aggressive. They always say F them picks. They probably don't like making as many picks as they're scheduled to make. So they could be aggressive, jump from 19 to 12 to get their offensive lineman of choice. And after accepting a second and a fifth round pick from the LA Rams, at pick number 19, I've got the Broncos going with Latu, the edge rusher out of UCLA, someone Denver had in for a pre-draft visit. They have done their research on, and I think this is a good combination of a good best player available, we love that cliche, and a position of need for Denver because they could benefit from adding to their pass rush. And if you're looking for the best pure pass rusher in this draft class, Latu is your man. So why isn't he the first one going? Well, people have concerns over his medical history. He missed 2 seasons due to a neck injury. I've heard very little at all to zero buzz about that being a concern for NFL teams. But he had the most dominant pass rushing stats last year in college football. 13 sacks, 21 tackles for loss. I personally don't think he's an absolute slam dunk, but I could see him almost having the path of like a TJ Watt where he just goes late in round 1 because people think, well, he's not athletic enough. He's not fast enough. He's not strong enough. But I'll tell you what he is. The guy's a proven winner. Like, he just finds a way to the quarterback better than anyone else did in college football last year. And when you look at Denver's pass rushing unit, their front 5, it's good. But is it something that we should all just sit back on? No, definitely not. Specifically their outside linebacker core, right? Where Cooper, Benito, Browning, like they all showed some good flashes and potential last year, especially Cooper and Benito. But I think the pass rushing position is the second most important position in the draft. And the Broncos could definitely look back or trade back, get more picks, and then go attack the second most important position in getting a guy like Latu. So if you are looking, by the way, for pick-by-pick analysis, subscribe to the channel because we're going to have a video for every single selection Denver makes along with grades. So there's plenty of good reasons to join us for the next 72 hours. So hit the sub button down below. But after making that trade with the Rams, they also acquired pick 52. And this is where I think they go quarterback, and it is Bo Nix. Hot take, I don't think Bo Nix goes round 1. I think he's a round 2 player. And I think the league knows that, and the media is going to find that out over the next 24 hours. So I could see Bo Nix being available in the second day of the draft, and now Sean Payton makes his need at quarterback satisfied. Nix, 6'2", 214 pounds. From a physical makeup standpoint, there's a lot to like. He's very mobile. He tends to ad-lib when the play begins to break down and the pocket collapses. He buys some time. A little bit of reminiscent of Russell Wilson, but he also can read defense as well. He knows what to do. He takes what the defense gives, and that has kind of actually been a blessing and a curse because he is a bit of a check down Charlie. His average depth of target last year was sub 7 yards. For college football, that is like bringing your chipping wedge to the tee box on a par 5. You just got to push the ball down the field more. Something he wasn't asked to do a lot at Oregon, and he had a lot of experience, right? Between Auburn and Oregon, this guy played a lot of college football. He's a little bit older. He's older than Zach Wilson. However, I think we could maybe learn from Justin Herbert, where Oregon didn't ask Herbert to throw the ball downfield very much. And once he got to the NFL, he showed something the league didn't know he had capable of doing, and that was airing the ball out. This, to me, though, is a Sean Payton pick. When I look at the quarterbacks that Denver could realistically get, I think Bo Nix may not be the perfect one, but I do think he has more traits in him than other quarterbacks do that Payton looks for in a quarterback, right? A guy that's going to stand in the pocket, that's going to follow through with what the coach or with what the play call is and not try to improvise and maybe play a little bit of hero ball. He may not be the strongest arm or the best athlete, but neither was Drew Brees and a lot of other quarterbacks that Sean Payton worked with, and he was very happy and successful with that. So I think Bo Nix is I wouldn't say exact like replica of what Payton looks for in a quarterback, but I think he's pretty darn close to it, at least closer than other quarterbacks. Now, personally, I'm not super high on Bo Nix. I'm not. But I am trying to think, what would Sean Payton do? And I think that would be Bo Nix. If it was up to me, I would not take Bo Nix. But it ain't up to me. So I'm trying to think, what would Sean do? So let me know. Would you draft Bo Nix? Give me a yes or give me a no. Fast forward to round 3, pick 76. Bit of a surprise pick here, but I'm going to go with Devontez Walker, wide receiver out of UNC. I remember last year when Denver went Marvin Mims. And keep in mind, a year ago, they didn't know that Tim Patrick would suffer another injury, and they were pretty loaded at wide receiver. And I think that we may see a similar pattern with Walker here, where Denver feels like he's just too good of an athlete to pass on. He ran a 4.36 40-yard dash at 6'1", 193 pounds. The last player to be that big and run that fast of a 40 was DK Metcalf. Now, Sean Payton doesn't really have a DK Metcalf type when he was in New Orleans, but he also didn't have a Marvin Mims, and I think he really liked the Mims selection. So he may look at Walker as not only just a really good athlete, but a potential big need for Denver in the future, because Courtland Sutton's future with the Broncos is a little bit murky right now. Walker, by the way, started off, I can't remember where, but then he went to Kent State, and then he transferred to UNC, and the NCAA sucks, and they wouldn't let him play football for the first few weeks. But then he got to play 8 games with Drake May, and he put up 700 yards and 7 touchdowns. So there was a lot of room to grow. There was some polishing to be done. But from a raw physical standpoint, he had good production, and he also is maybe not like a DK Metcalf, like in terms of playing style, but just size and speed, and the ability to make big plays at times, and then also just vanish for like a half. I mean, who years had DK Metcalf on their fantasy team before, and he has no receptions for the first 3 quarters, and then he goes off in the 4th, or vice versa. I think Walker has that type of play in him. On to round number 4, pick 121. I'm going to go with Texas defensive tackle T'Vondre Sweat. We talked about him on the channel not too long ago, but I think this is someone that could see his draft stock really plummet because of a DWI arrest earlier this month. When you think about the NFL draft process, these guys work so hard up to the combine, up to their pro days, and then they kind of get to relax for the month of April. And that relaxation period can lead to temptation and bad decision making. And teams are looking for guys that are going to screw up. And Sweat screwed up. And that's going to cost him a round probably in the draft. But for Denver, for how bad their run defense was last year, T'Vondre Sweat, with how athletic he is, despite being 360 pounds, if he can maintain that weight and not find himself in too many drive-thrus before and after practice, he could be a really quick plug and fix for this Broncos run defense that did not get a lot of support and was just dominated at the line of scrimmage. So there are some cons to Sweat, and there are some immaturity concerns, and those are real. But I think Denver, they have to make a bit of a gamble because they didn't really do a whole lot to address a big need for this team, and I don't think they're going to do it early on in the draft. So they may, say reach necessarily on Sweat, but roll the dice on a guy that has some question marks, but he can play football. I also want to add right now, I think Denver, whether they do this or not in my mock draft, I think they're going to trade a 5th-round pick, which leads me to the next pick in this mock draft, which actually does not come in round number 5. I think they're going to be back in round 4 again. The Broncos have 3 5th-round picks. 2 of them are within the span of 3 picks. I do not think they are going to make 3 5th-rounders. So, in this projected trade, I've got the Broncos jumping from 136, the first pick in round number 5, all the way up to 129 and giving up one of their 6th-rounders. And then with their 2nd, 4th-round pick, I think they go cornerback out of Notre Dame, Cam Hart. There's a lot to like about Cam Hart, especially when you look at the physical attributes and the position he plays. Guy is 6'2", 6'3", 200 pounds, ran a solid 40-yard dash. I mean, you just don't find tall corners that move as quickly as Hart does. So why is he available in round 4? Well, he didn't have a ton of production for the Fighting Irish. But I'm willing to look past that. I know, 4 pass breakups, 0 interceptions. But sometimes corners get a little bit lucky and unlucky, right? Sometimes a wide receiver drops a ball that falls right to the DB, and it's an easy INT, and we don't remember how easy it was, but we'll look back at the end of the year going, hey, he had 3 picks. Yeah, well, 2 of the picks were just gimmies because the wide receiver couldn't catch the ball. Sometimes the wide receiver does catch the ball, and the guy doesn't get the easy pick. But I think from a physical trait standpoint, Cam Hart in round 4 is a really good selection. Now, as for their first 5th round pick, I'm going to go with defensive tackle from LSU, Mekhi Wingo. I know we just took Devondre Sweat at the same position, but their run defense was just that bad last year. I think they should double dip at defensive tackle. Wingo, 5 tackles for loss, 4.5 sacks. I don't think that pass rush is going to carry over to the NFL super duper well, but there's a lot to like about the LSU Tiger. And again, I think this team should double down at run stopping. In round 5 for their second pick, but they have 3 altogether, but I had them trade 1 to get Cam Hart. I'm going to go with the local legend in a way, Luke McCaffrey. That's right. The one-time Nebraska Cornhusker, but finished his career in Houston with the Rice Owls. He's a touchdown machine. And of course, I don't need to explain the lineage he has and the connections to the Denver Broncos with his father, Ed McCaffrey. But last year for Rice, 992 yards, 13 touchdowns, superb athlete. This just screams Broncos pick, does it not? I think this is something Denver would be happy to make. Then again, in round number 5, after making a trade earlier, remember, we picked up an additional 5th round pick from the LA Rams, so we end up having 3 5th round picks. I'm going to go with Arizona tight end Tanner McLachlan. 6'5", 244 pounds. Now, he's a bit of an older cat, and that's definitely going to tune some teams off of him. But if you talk to NFL draft insiders and gurus and you really start picking their brains about, give me a day 3 sleeper, give me someone people are talking about that the rest of the country isn't, his name surfaces. And I think at tight end, a spot of need for the Broncos, it's a worthy investment in round number 5. Now, the Broncos don't have a 6th round pick anymore due to the Zach Wilson trade, but they do have a 7th rounder as a result, and I'm going with Frank Crum for one reason and one reason only. Look at that flow. Beautiful, luscious V of hair going for mine. Never mind. But still, I think at offensive line with that hair, voice crack. You got Quinn Meinerz with the belly, Crum with the hair. It'd be an all-time duo. So how would you grade my mock draft? Give me an A, B, C, D, or F. We go Latu, Bo Nix. We go wide receiver with Devontez Walker. Those are the 3 big names of the bunch, and then some day 3 picks to round it out. How would you grade it? For me, I'd give myself a B+. I don't like Bo Nix a lot. I think Bo Nix, and this is really mean, I think he's going to make one hell of a backup quarterback. I think that's his career path, though. All right, that will do it for us on today's show. It's draft day. We'll see you all in a few short hours for our round 1 coverage of the 2024 NFL Draft.